Coming up towards just about 4 minutes after 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, I suppose about a year ago, if you were to say, you know, what are the chances of Donald Trump becoming president of the United States? They will say, you see that? And a Laventil boy becoming ambassador to Port of Spain, you will never see. Well, one of them has been fulfilled already. We don't know about the other one, but certainly the first part of it, because the new U.S. ambassador to Port of Spain is John Estrada from Trinidad and Tobago, a Laventil boy, spent time in Diego Martin, in Toco and so on, but now he's here in Port of Spain in a different capacity, as, wearing the stars and stripes. He was sworn in on March the 17th and arrived in the country on the 23rd, as we said, born right here in TNT. He's particularly interested in issues relating to human rights and assisting students in at-risk schools, and he's our guest this morning. We were just talking about the education system with Professor Ramesh Diosaran. And as you can tell by his physique, he's a military man. Looks as if he could I don't know, walk off a fighter or one of those battleships anytime now. But you know the Americans and the military are there as well. Ambassador, privileged to have you here with us. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning.
Indeed. What's it been like? I mean, as a Trini boy, coming back home as ambassador to representing the United States. What has that been like for you?
It has been a humbling experience. You know, little did I know when I left here at the age of 14 that my the path would take me to where I am today. And to be walking the streets, I like to run and go different places, and the ordinary wonderful people of Trinidad and Tobago just comes up to me and says, Ambassador, welcome back home. And it's truly humbling. Do
they say, welcome back home? Could you help me out at the embassy to get me a green card, please?
Some of them have hinted around.
and in that sense, of course you left when you were 14, right, and you have a decorated career in the military and in public service and so on. Does being from Trinidad and Tobago in any way help you to understand the psyche of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, their hopes, their aspirations, maybe their expectations of what the United States can do to assist them in fulfilling their hopes and dreams?
I think that is something unique with my assignment as ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago. I have not done the research. I don't know how much it has happened in the past, but it's very unique. It does help me understand the psyche of the people. I still have family members here. I have friends that come back and forth to the U.S., and I have visited before, so it does help having that unique understanding, yes. And it will help me greatly in my job. It will help our country as I execute my duties on behalf of our government. Will help significantly, I think.
And your tour of duty in this regard is for how long?
So my tour of duty, every ambassador serves under the authority of the President of the United States. So I'm here under President Barack Obama, but what I would also like to add to this, regardless of how long that stay is, the strong relationship that we have with Trinidad and Tobago will go on. So however long my tour is, we'll see.
So you might be leaving us after the first Tuesday in November, depending on how things go?
We'll see.
But just tell us a bit about yourself. And you know, leaving Trinidad and Tobago at age 14, tell us about what you were able to achieve as an individual in the United States, to the point where you are now coming back home here as an ambassador.
Okay. I left at the age of 14. I have vivid memories of having to come down to Port of Spain to get my passport photo, and going to the embassy to work on the visa part of it.
Some things never change.
Some things don't change. And left here on Pan American Airways, which does not exist anymore, and flew to New York, and then on to Washington, D.C. In March of 1970, and what a difference the weather was at that time. It was extremely cold. There was snow on the ground. And I had to adjust. I went to school immediately. The curriculum is a little different in the United States than it is here in Trinidad and Tobago. So I would say I struggle a little bit early. I'm speaking English, but most Americans don't get that accent. They don't hear it too often. So I struggled a little bit early on, but I finally caught on. I always had this thought in the back of my head that I would like to be a Marine one day, and that started while I was in Diego Martin. I used to go to the movies.
Yeah.
And I loved to watch American war movies. Seemed glamorous and all of that. And what always stood out of all the American armed forces was the United States Marine Corps. They got it done. They were tough. They were close. But so while I'm in Washington, I'm going to school. I'm working after school. I would walk past the Marine Corps recruiting office, but I was scared to go in. I didn't feel I had what it took. So probably after about 5 or 6 months, the recruiter came out and called me in, and like I like to say, that was all that was written. I went on into the Marine Corps and spent just about my whole adult life, 34 years. Work hard. Had a few little minor challenges. Again, I was still adjusting to my new country, the new culture, but right away I'm in war, and it was not in war. The country was still at war, but we were finishing up Vietnam.
Yeah.
So I never got to go to Vietnam, but it came pretty close to it. And my career, never really had any goals. I just worked hard, and at that point, right about 10 years, I figured I'll go ahead and stay for the long haul. Didn't know what that long haul was going to mean. Was given the opportunity, which is very rare if you look through our history, foreign-born, and I became the highest enlisted Marine in the United States of America, the 15th Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. What a huge honor. And the time that I got it was while I was off to war. But the Marine Corps is all about fighting battles for our nation, to protect our nation, and to be the head, the senior enlisted Marine during a time of war. It was an incredible honor. Huge responsibilities, and that's what my career took me.
So you saw action in Iraq and Afghanistan?
I was a part of the invasion force into Iraq. That's where I got selected. I invaded with my unit in 2003.
And when you look at the situation, I mean, there are so many issues tied in to being a military person from the United States that it really depends on which side of the fence you're on, that you need a strong United States, the defender of freedom in the world. Others will say, well, a militarized United States is as much a danger as anywhere else. When you look at Iraq as it is now compared to when you would have gone in 2003, when you look at Afghanistan as it is now compared to prior to the incursion in 2001, what are your own feelings about that?
Here's my feelings. So right after I retired from the Marine Corps, after 34 years of service, all our military folks are apolitical. We don't practice politics in the military, which is a great thing. It protects our freedom. After I retired from the Marine Corps, I went on and became a surrogate, national surrogate, for then Senator Obama on his run for President of the United States. Now, we all know where the president stood on the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. I would just simply say I was a big supporter of his after retiring from the Marine Corps for both elections. And
of course, as a diplomat, you have to observe so you're not carrying a weapon per se anymore. You're carrying let's say, the weapon of diplomacy in that regard, which is soft power, which we've heard a lot about Barack Obama and so on. How do you perceive your role as the ambassador here in Trinidad and Tobago, as far as beyond the Mr. Estrada, do me a favor and give me a green card and so on. Beyond that, what do you see your role as ambassador? What function do you think you have to perform?
This is simply how I see my role. We have 3 strategic goals. The U.S. Embassy, government here working with Trinidad and Tobago, has to do with governance, commerce, and security, which, again, is tied in very closely for both of our nations. We have a lot of common interests. I see my role as strengthening in all of those areas, governance, commerce, and security, strengthening it so both of our nations will prosper from it, have security, and just stable government.
Are you happy with the level of cooperation that exists between the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the government of the United States, by extension CARICOM as well, because the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago has gone to the United States, heading off to UK, then going on to Ghana. A lot of issues related to narco-trafficking, terrorism, terrorist activities, and so on. Are you satisfied? Are you happy with the level of cooperation?
I'm extremely happy. Like I said, my welcome, I talked about the ordinary citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. My meeting thus far with every government official has been went exceptionally well. I think we have a lot of common interests again, and we are partnering with each other to address those issues. And I see a really good, strong relationship all the way through. So I'm happy in how things are so far, and I hope they are happy with the meetings they have had with me.
And the same way you talk about being inspired by the war movies of the 1960s, many people are inspired now by whether it's the Star Wars or whatever else is going on the social networks about going to the United States. What do you say to those people who might see the United States as still the be and end all of their existence, the land of hope and glory, the land of their dreams, and they have this desire to want to leave Trinidad and Tobago or other countries and see the United States as their ultimate ambition? What do you say to people like that?
What I would say to people like that, Trinidad and Tobago has some of the most talented people in the world. They're wonderful people, hardworking, and they don't have to go to the United States to fulfill their dreams. This could be done right here. I have been inspired going to the schools here and speaking with the young students, and I see so many future leaders in the classrooms. I've been to about 4 schools now since I've been in the country, a couple in Tobago and a couple here. And the students, the questions they have, they're so bright. So going to the United States it should not be one of those focus. I just happened to go. I think if I had stayed here, I may have just been as successful, but my parent at that time was looking to move. Things maybe had been a lot different, but they could do it right here. Again, so many talented people, and there's so much great opportunities here. I will tell them you could do it right here. It doesn't have to be in the United States.
Are you a sports fan? Do you like any particular sport?
I'm a big sports fan, yes.
American football, basketball, anyone in particular?
I am American football. I'm big into American football.
New England Patriots?
Well, I'm up in that area now that I have to, but I am actually a big fan of the Washington team.
Okay, well, yes. There's an issue with the Redskins name.
That's why I did not mention it.
Exactly, so clearly there's an issue there. Mr. Weeks is watching on very carefully.
So I'm advocating, I'm one of those advocates that the name needs to change.
You think that's going to change? Because you hear a lot of people saying that, it's just a name, it doesn't really matter.
I am optimistic it will eventually change. I think it's the right thing to do.
And before time runs out, so I'm trying my best to get the ambassador in trouble this morning by saying something entirely controversial. The State Department issued an update on the security situation in Trinidad and Tobago, talking about safety issues, and of course, the United States' priority has to be its own citizens. The reaction is that it reflects very badly on the security situation in Trinidad and Tobago. What is your perspective?
Okay. The news organization that issued that published that has since, I think it's important that the citizens here have retracted that. They were referring to country-specific information, which is something we do for every country in the world. We talk about what the situation is in that country,
right?
And that's what they refer to. So there is no advisory or alert or warning to Americans coming to Trinidad and Tobago. There's none. So again, and this again, it was country-specific information, and nothing has changed. We're all aware, as citizens have shared with me over and over again, Ms. Ambassador, we have a very tough crime problem. What are you going to do to fix it? And I tell them, I'm not going to fix it for you. I will partner, we will work with your U.S. Embassy so you could try to fix that problem.
You're not going to send a couple of F-15 fighters to arrive in Piarco Airport to help us out? No. But why should there be any awkwardness on your part or the embassy's part in stating what is so blindingly obvious, that there is a crime problem, there is a security problem, that any sane Trinidadian will tell you that it's not safe to walk into certain areas of Port of Spain or elsewhere? Are you surprised by how touchy people might be when it comes to how their nation is reflected outside?
Of course, no, I'm not surprised at that at all. It brings it brings a bad reflection on the nation as a whole. And this is a proud people. This is a proud country here. And no one wants the rest of the world to think that things are out of control. They're very proud. And so I fully understand their feelings on that.
Are you concerned at all about the image of the United States? Let's putting the shoe on the other foot, as far as how the United States is seen in a place like the Caribbean, and specifically Trinidad and Tobago. The view often expressed, well, we don't really matter. We're just a small part of this part of the world, a few tiny islands, especially the former British West Indies, your home country, Trinidad and Tobago, just about 1.5 million, that we don't really matter in the greater scheme of things. Does that resonate with you, how people like us might see how the United States might regard us as almost inconsequential?
Well, I have heard that comment. I've heard arguments to that fact. But I said, if we look at the fact, our president, right after he took office, and I had spoken with him prior to him, he came down here in 2009.
Yes, he did.
So
Summit of the Americas.
Exactly. So that shows right away his importance, the American government administration importance on this region. We view Trinidad and Tobago as one of the leaders if not the leader in the Caribbean. So we got the energy summit that's going on right now that involves all of the Caribbean and Central America. So we have recognized the United States government and its people that this is a very important part of the region, and I want the people to realize that. It may not have been viewed that way years ago, but again, since our President Obama has taken office, we have seen that focus on this region. It's big focus on this region.
And yet, with President Obama coming towards the end of his term and people talking about his legacy and so on, what is your own view as an American citizen, as an ambassador? What is your view on the United States of 2016 and its view of the world?
I think our president, as he comes towards the end of his term, he has brought the respect back that our nation probably had lost around the world. The Iraqi war, the way we went about business, our president has made it more inclusive. We are speaking more with people instead of, I want to say, I want to use the right here, not bullying really, but forcing our way onto folks. We're having dialogues, more dialogues than we did before. We're working closely with all of our allies in this region, in Europe, wherever, instead of us making, decisions on our own, and this is the way things need to be. And I think the whole world has seen that. There's been a different foreign policy the past years. Final
question, Ambassador Estrada. Which is tougher, being a diplomat or being a Marine?
I would say being a diplomat.
No question about that. Thanks very much for joining us, Ambassador John Estrada.
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome joining us this morning. As you said, well, if you thought you'd have never seen the day a Laventel boy becomes ambassador to Port of Spain, you've seen it happen over the last month and a half. Will we see Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States? You never know. Will he be here until the first Tuesday in November? You never know as well. We'll be back after this.